Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Run Selfie Repeat podcast where we talk about life with a side of running. My name is Kelly Roberts. I am head circus clown, to put it lightly. I'm the creator of the Badass Lady Gang. I'm the head coach. I am sharing my journey. This is what this is. To try to qualify for the Boston Marathon again. It's something I started years and years and years ago, and I've been taking a huge break. But this whole thing starts with me first having this little side piece called Project 159, breaking 2 hours in the half marathon. I am so far out from a spring possible BQ attempt. BQ is qualifying for the Boston Marathon for short. I don't know if I'm going to try in the spring or if I'm going to try in the fall. Right now, I'm very far off from that. The first step towards figuring out timeline is figuring out whether or not I can break 2 hours in the half marathon. It's not really something that needs to happen in order for me to try to BQ, but it is a very helpful benchmark for me to work towards, right? When we're talking about goals, something that I'm always working on with my athletes is establishing what are your long-term goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your process goals? And what are your outcome goals? If that sounds like, what does that all mean? I normally just pick a race and then I kind of sort of train, and then I want more out of it and I want to work on my mental game. Well, come train with me. As I'm recording this, tomorrow we kick off our Turkey Trot training experience, Monday, October 7th. Obviously, this is a podcast, and who knows when you're listening to this, but check out our training experiences. Our training experiences are kind of like the best way to figure out if training with the Badass Lady Gang is right for you. I like to call it the Badass Lady Gang Training Team Light. It's a training experience. So you get a snippet, a snapshot of training with us. So right now we've got our Turkey Trot training experience starting tomorrow. You get a weekly coaching call with me, a dedicated Turkey Trot coaching call that's every Monday at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. When you're doing a training experience, during your training experience, you get access to Coach Amanda's live strength sessions. Those are on Mondays at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time, but you also get access to her strength video library. Sometimes people are asking me, what's your strength routine? I do Coach Amanda's strength workouts. We have tons of different series in our strength video library, things like an 8-week base building strength series, a 16-week entry-level strength series. We have a short 8-week strength by yoga series, a 16-week strength by yoga series. We've got drill videos, dynamic warm-up videos, how-to videos. We've got one-off strength videos. All of the Monday strength sessions are recorded and shared. Coach Amanda is constantly recording and sharing new content in that strength video library. That's the tip of the iceberg. You get that. You get weekly journals. You get emails to remind you about stuff. We're really big on working on your mental game when you train with the Badass Lady Gang. I hope you can kind of sort of see that when you hear me talk about my training and the things I'm working through. You're gonna watch me kind of unpack some of the mental stuff that I was going through this week, which I found really surprising, because I'm always surprised that I'm not perfect. I always think I'm fixed, and then sure enough, I'm human, and who knew? Not me for sure. So we do a lot of mental stuff because, like you just kind of heard me tap dance around, we're never done, right? This is constantly we're constantly a work in progress. There's always more to learn. There's always things to relearn and reinvestigate and replay with. And the more you do this, even though the more experience you bring to this and the more robust and full of an experience you get, it is always its own thing. So it is really fun to have a coach to lean on, to customize your training plan, to have a team of people to learn from, learn with, learn through, encourage, get to cheer for you and support. It's really fun. So check out our training experiences. Check out our Badass Lady Gang training team. Our team gets access to all of our training experiences. You also get multiple weekly coaching calls every single week. So if you can't make any of those coaching calls, they're sometimes during the day, and then oftentimes on Wednesdays, they're at 6, 7, and 8:00 p.m. Eastern time. Check out one-on-one coaching with me. I do offer one-on-one coaching. It is a premier experience because it's one-on-one coaching. You get a weekly coaching call with me plus access to everything the team gets. So if that's out of your price point, check out the team. You get more than 6 most of the time coaching calls every single week. You get email access to me. So we really try to make coaching as accessible as humanly possible to everybody who needs it, because we really believe in what we're doing at the Badass Lady Gang, and the proof's in the pudding. I see it in my athletes. I watch the way they talk about themselves change, and they become these really, really, really self-aware, curious and joyful runners. And I think that is everything. I think that is so beautiful and so wonderful. I love running, but there's so much more to this than running, right? Like on this podcast, we always say, where we talk about life with a side of running, that's what we do. It's life with a side of running. How can we make sure that running supports your life and you don't just get run into the ground? So yeah, check it out. Click the links in my bio, go to the show notes, all the information you need to learn more about how you can train with us. But let's get into this week, right? Project 159. We just finished week 5. What? This week is Chicago Marathon. Berlin just happened last week. Like, it's crazy that we're already like in the thick of these fall racing season races. What? This is going to be here before we know it. And as I say that, I fully know that this is the halfway point. I'm heading into week 6. So though I am getting ahead of myself and starting to be like, oh my God, the race is here, I have to remind myself, whoa, cool your jets. We're not even halfway there. At the end of this week, it's halfway. Focus on the week at hand, right? It is really hard to stay in the moment and focus on the week when you kind of get to this point in training, when you start to have to, for me in my training, I'm playing with a lot of race pace, and it is daunting. We'll talk about it in a second, to think, I can barely do this for this amount of time. How am I going to do this for 13.1 miles? What? I have time, right? The point is not to execute perfectly. The point is to give my best. The point is to explore what I'm capable of. I don't know what I'm capable of. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm trying this. So week 5, how did week 5 go? I think it went really well. Things I did well, I got all the strength work I wanted to get done. I'm foam rolling. I'm doing my dynamic warm-ups. I am in a space where I'm really listening to my body, and I was really brave on one of my workouts. My long run went well. I'm just having fun, right? What didn't go as well as I would have liked, my cross training was really off this week. I'm really struggling to get my bike off the wall and take it down my 2 flights of stairs and go ride it. Because if I have to ride my indoor Peloton, I won't do what I want to do, because it's really hard to stay motivated on that thing, I find. So that wasn't great. My sleep's kind of back. I'm still feeling kind of unmotivated and generally just kind of sad. So that's been tough. Work is really stressful, so that's hard. I'm having a hard time finding time for myself. I've got a lot of late coaching calls going on for the next 2 months. So that's hard. It's hard to find me time, and it's hard to, separate my work from my life in this time of year. It kind of feels like I eat, sleep, and breathe Badass Lady Gang and running, which is hard. I mean, it is a Sunday. I'm recording this late, and I've been working on turkey trot stuff for most of the day. I did take a break and go hang out with friends, but it's 7:00 on a Sunday, and here we are. This is fun, but this is work. So, this is kind of where I wanted to start. Someone shot me a message, and they asked me, like, do you make your training plan week by week, or do you have like a set training plan? And I kind of do both. So I start with a 12-week training plan that I offer. And then I adjusted it at the get-go. I tried to include my favorite workouts and then my least favorite workouts, because I'm always wanting to try to be brave and work through fears I have with some of my least favorite workouts, or attack workouts that I know are really important to the build for what I'm training for. Really, like the training plan that I'm doing is very specific to trying to break 2. The phases of it were kind of like the first phase. You saw me at the tail end of that first phase in week 1. I was doing a lot of repetition work. Leading into that repetition pace is an effort level. It's really spicy, really hot, really fast. You're doing it for short increments of time. It's a place to build top end speed. It's a place to work on your anaerobic fitness. It is a place to work on confidence. It is a place to work on your form. It's a place to build strength. So that's really what I was doing for a while. That, and then you saw me with threshold pace work. I had been doing threshold pace for the last couple of weeks. So our threshold pace was starting to get longer. So that was kind of like the tail end of that first build. And then we shifted into this build that we're currently in, which is a lot of interval pace work and then longer threshold pace intervals. So we left the 5-minute intervals at threshold pace behind, and we moved into more like 10 and 15 mile repeats, multiple mile repeats at threshold pace. And then interval wise, this was my first week with interval pace. Although 2 weeks ago was supposed to be my first week at interval pace, but I cut that workout because I was in the high hormone phase of my cycle, feeling really, really heavy and really flat. Something that I've discovered about myself is when I'm in the high hormone phase of my cycle, I really struggle. I really struggle with my sleep. I really struggle with how I feel. I'm super anxious easily. I get in my head really easily. I feel awful when I'm running. My heart rate's really high. And that can last 1, 2, 3 weeks at a time because my cycle is not regular. So I'm always thinking about the Chicago Marathon, the last time I raced it, the last time I tried to BQ, because I was in the high hormone phase of my cycle. And I just if I would have just fueled differently and ate differently, I'm always curious, would things have been different, or if I hydrated differently? But that's why it's one of the reasons I want to try this again, right? I know so much more now, and I have such a fuller understanding of not only my own body and what I'm capable of, but also female physiology. I took Dr. Stacy Sims' course and training with the female physiology, and I just want to try again. I feel really I want to say in control, but you're never really in control. I feel really confident with what could happen, and I'm excited to see what could happen. So I am, you know what? I've been meaning to look. I almost don't want to look. I'm pulling up a calendar right now. Okay. Where am I right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure my race is in the high hormone phase. That is a real bummer. Oh, well, that's outside of my control. Here's why I say that. This week, I felt great, especially today and yesterday. My running felt light, snappy. I'm back on it. Yesterday was humid and hot. I feel when I'm in the high hormone phase, if it's humid and hot, I feel so horrible and I really struggle. And I don't want to predict the future, just categorically looking at patterns, that tends to be the case. So I'm going to lean on every resource I have and figure out what I can do if I am going to be in the high hormone phase of my cycle. I'm just going to plan for that. But it does bum me out a little bit. But again, I don't have a regular cycle, so who knows? Who knows? So yeah. Anyways, the question was, do you make your training plan week by week? No, I have a training plan that I adjust. This week I was going to make an adjustment for this upcoming week, week 6. And I was going to shift my interval pace work, but I'm actually going to keep it the way it is because I really like this workout. But let's go over week 5 before we talk about week 6. So at the top of the week, when I had set my schedule for this week, here's what I had originally anticipated. Monday, cycling and strength. What I ended up doing, making Monday a rest day. I kind of realized I needed that rest day there. Tuesday, I did 10 by 400 meters at interval pace with 90 seconds rest. I intended to do that. That was the workout that I did. Wednesday, I intended to do strength work and then a 60-minute run. What I ended up doing was a 20-minute cross training, 30-minute strength, and then a 1.5 mile run. I did not check final surge, so I did my strength work, and then I didn't check my training plan and just went for a run, and I felt weird. I don't know what it was. I kind of felt out of body in a way, and a part of me was like, are you going to faint? Is that this feeling? And so that kind of freaked me out because I did have this weird spell this summer where I fainted. And I just kind of stopped, and then I said, let me just look at final surge and see how I could shift my week around if I take today as a strength training day and a cross training day. And then I saw I wasn't even supposed to be running in the first place. And I was like, oh, F this, I'm going home. I don't need to be running. I'm going home. So then I turned around and went home. But that was because I just felt weird. I felt really off. I felt really panicky, and it was what it was. I had therapy the day before, so I am curious if that session maybe made me feel a certain way, because we didn't really talk about anything too consequential, but you never know. Thursday, I had intended to do 3 by 15 minutes at threshold pace, and I gave myself the option of doing a 60-minute run if I felt really beat up, but I felt really good, so I ended up doing that 3 by 15 minutes at threshold pace, and boy, was that a hard workout. We'll talk about it. Friday, I intended for that to be a rest day, and since I moved that rest day to Monday, what I ended up doing was 30 minutes of strength work and then a 42-minute ride on my Peloton that I had to fight for my life to get done. because I just wanted to get off of it 10 minutes in. But luckily I had some like video modules that I needed to watch. So that got me to at least 40 minutes, and then 42. I'm like, yep, we're done. Saturday, I intended to do a long run of an hour and 50 minutes. I ended up doing an hour and 57 minutes, which came out to 10.16 miles. Sunday, I intended to do strength work and possibly cycling, and I ended up doing a 45-minute run. So yeah, let's talk about this week. Besides that wacky Wednesday, let's talk about 10 by 400s. I really wanted to go to a track. That was something that I really wanted to do, and I ended up not going to the track because it would have taken me 30 minutes to get there at least. And it's just like I didn't have the time to like go to the track. I will be totally honest with you, though I don't think it is like deeply unsafe to ride a bike, a city bike here in New York City. I probably wouldn't bring a helmet with me because then I would have to like put it down and worry that someone's going to steal it. At the track, there's nowhere to like lock it up or put it somewhere safe. And though it is probably fine, like I've lived here long enough to know that like you don't put your stuff down and like walk away from it without someone watching it. It's New York City. Don't be stupid. So I would be riding a bike without a helmet, and I don't love doing that. And I don't love doing that when I have to go into Manhattan and like ride through the Lower East Side, when it used to be that we could like, I'm only on city streets for like a small portion of it, and then I can get on the east side and like stay along the river on protected bike lanes. It felt less horrible and scary, but that's been closed for years because they were building stuff. And I don't know. I just feel I don't like taking the subway to go run. You know, I want to just run from my door. That's always what I want to do, or like ride a bike for a mile. So I didn't end up going to the track. I ended up doing it in Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is flat, but it's harder to gauge 400 meters because I haven't done it in so long. What I love about being on a track is you know exactly where you are in space so that you can pace yourself relatively easily. Even though like physically I kind of know these effort levels, I do still sort of wonder like, where am I and how much more time do I have? And I look down at my watch and I can see it, but like it's not the same as like when you're on a track and you don't need to break your concentration. You know exactly like, I have 100 meters, I have 50 meters, I have 400 meters, I have 300 meters. Like I just need to get to this curve and this curve and this curve. Like you have visual eye lines of where you're trying to get to. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I actually ended up on Sunday today running to the Red Hook track, which is the track that I normally run at. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this again was because the track was supposed to be done this fall. That's what the sign said. Actually, it was supposed to be done last year, but because they were running behind, they moved it to this fall. And no, I ran by it today and it is overgrown. They've done literally nothing in a year. And I like went down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out like what's going on with the track. And I think South Brooklyn Track Club found out that they're waiting on the environmental department to do something about remediation. We know that there's something to do with the soil in that area, whether it has, the rumor was always that it had lead, but I don't know if that's true. Or I also heard at one point that it was like a gas station. I don't know what's true. All I do know is this fucking track closed in 2021 and they finished every single other project. So it's part of this huge park and they put in these huge soccer fields behind it. So there's like 6 soccer fields back there now. They redid the whole baseball field to the side of it. They put multiple soccer fields across the street. Those were the first project that was done way before COVID. So everything else that like teams, like children's teams have to pay to be a part of has been completed. And the free track is literally, it looks like it's like a scene out of a scary movie. It is so overgrown and they've done literally nothing. So I'm mad, big mad. And so I'm contacting every news station I know to be like, hi, I have a story for you. Can we figure out what the fuck is going on? I mean, these signs are so old that they still say Bill de Blasio is the mayor. So I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. We need our city parks. Our money goes to those city parks. The amount of like schools and people who use the tracks are insane. Like just go to the East River track or McCarran Park in New York City. They are mobbed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What's going on? We need our track back. Give it back. Give it back, I say. So I'm mad. I'm talking about it and I'm raising hell because it should have been done. It should have been done. It doesn't take 5 years to do something like this. What's going on? Who do I need to talk to? So yeah, other than that, they actually went pretty well. So in terms of like my reps, going into it, I was kind of like, okay, 150 is going to be my goal, a minute 50. So interval pace, when I'm coaching, I like to talk about it like mile pace, because that's a pace for a lot of people who have never done speed work before. We start with mile time trials, and that is a pace that you can kind of sort of call back to and call on. It's a hard, spicy pace that you can hold for a little bit of time. So it's a little bit faster than mile pace in reality, but at least the effort level is something you can kind of like call upon. So I looked, again, I haven't done a time trial, so I'm kind of like guesstimating all my paces, and I think I'm right on. My goal was to come through at, I couldn't remember if it was 150 or 155, but I'm pretty sure I was trying to come through at 155. And so I wonder if actually VDOT is up on my phone. Let's look. So that's something, that was actually a question that I have. How do you determine your paces? So I use something called the VDOT calculator. So yeah, I wanted to come through it's not mine anymore. Yeah, I think it was actually 155. I think that sounds right. Yeah, 155 to 2 was what I was planning to come through at. So I ended up doing the first one in a minute 53, the second one in a minute 55, the third one in a minute 58, the fourth one in 2, the fifth one in a minute 58, the sixth one in a minute 58, the seventh one in 2:02, the eighth in 1:58, the ninth in 1:57, the 10th at 1:56. I feel like one of those numbers is off, but as I was like pulling the numbers from my Apple Watch, the Apple app, fitness app, I feel like the fourth one wasn't 2 minutes. I feel like I only had one that was 2 minutes, and that was 7. But for the most part, they're fairly consistent. I would have liked a lot more to have seen 155 to 157. Am I going to lose sleep over the fact that a lot of them are 158? No. They are relatively consistent. I would have liked to seen them a little bit more consistent, but they didn't feel consistent. They really kind of felt all over the place. And I don't know if that's because I haven't done 400-meter repeats in a long time, but this workout wasn't crazy hard, which makes me really happy. It was hard during it, right? The last couple were tough, but I didn't feel beat up. I didn't feel like I was fighting for my life, which sometimes we feel like we should be feeling like that. And that's not always the case. For a hard workout, you kind of want to feel in control. You want to feel confident. You want to do the work, and you want everything to be as like full of ease as humanly possible. Ease is always the word that I come back to. I feel like if we like rang a bell every time I said the word ease on this podcast, we would just like constantly be ringing a bell. But that really is what you're striving for. Just no resistance, full surrender, being present, kind of like accepting whatever it is that's happening, and striving for like just really consistent thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So all in all, I feel really good about that workout. I feel really good about the amount of rest that I had. My heart rate was exactly where it needed to be, and I felt confident and cool and happy, and I was able to like run home. I didn't feel destroyed like I have in weeks past. So I do feel like my fitness is really showing up. The second speed play day that I had this week was that 3 by 15 minutes at threshold pace, and I was a little nervous about that going into it. You know, like before this, I'd been playing with the 10-minute repeats and the miles and the 5 minutes. So this was my first like really longer race. And something that I was doing was I was putting it into context with the race that I ran, the 5-mile team championships in Central Park in, I want to say, the end of July. And I was kind of like at first calling upon that as a source of confidence, because I was like, hey, remember team champs? You were able to hold a little bit over a 9-minute mile for all 5 miles. You were really strong. Like, and that was July, and you have a significant amount of fitness on top of that. Like, this isn't going to be that hard. And that right there was like the fatal error. You don't want to predict how things are going to go. I know it sounds like saying it's not going to be that hard isn't something that could potentially be off-putting or harm you, but you don't want to predict for yourself or lay out the expectation of how a workout's going to go. I knew it was going to be a challenge, but when I said it's not going to be that hard, I think a piece of me was a little panicked and nervous when that second one felt as hard as it did. Or I guess even like the last 5 minutes of the first rep felt as like, ooh, this is very long, right? I forgot how long 15 minutes is. You really want to stay present and allow whatever information is going to present itself to you to like show up without putting on what's about to happen. And that takes a lot of time to get into that headspace of allowing whatever to happen, right? So I knew going into it, I wanted to try to maintain a 9-minute mile, right? Race pace for me. And that also started kind of like seeping into my head of like, ooh, we can't do this for 15 minutes. How are we going to do this for 13.1 miles? The first one is like relatively, I would say half of it is at a bit of a downhill. So that helps, right? The second one is, I would say, net uphill, but there is like some downhills and there are some like flats in it. And so once the back half came about, I started to really it was the beginning of the second rep, the first quarter of the second rep, I started to kind of get in my head a little bit about the third. And this tends to be something that when I struggle, this is what I struggle with. I start to think about that next rep and, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And if I can't do this here, how am I going to do this here? So be here now is a mantra that I always really, really lean on. Be here now, this chunk, right? And not even like this workout, this chunk right now. And again, you've heard me talk about this before. I really use my music. It is a lot of the time, like it feels almost like a secret weapon for me to put into context where I am in space and distance. I use that Disney parade. I know. It is so silly. But it really helps me because in a little bit of like my music ADD brain, everything is like a 1 minute chunk of something, right? Like every character parade unit is what it is called. So like when Moana goes through, that's a parade unit. When Coco goes through, that's a parade unit. I know too much about Disneyland. The parade units have multiple songs within their unit, right? Like mashups of songs. So I'm kind of able to focus on each little mashup. And then for these 15-minute reps, I knew I needed to get through. I feel so crazy telling you this. If you judge me, I don't care, but don't judge me. You do what works for you. I do what works for me. Not only does Disney jack me up and get me so excited to run because it's where I get to listen to my Disney music, but it really does help me like pace. You've heard me in the past when I told you about this. If you've listened to prior episodes of this podcast, I talked about like when I'm doing 10-minute repeats or mile repeats where I'm like, just get to Coco. It's just at like through Coco is about 10 minutes. And, or I guess it's more like 9 minutes. And so when I'm doing something like 15 minutes, I know I now need to get through Frozen. So normally I don't get to touch Frozen. So it's exciting to touch Frozen. So I'm like, not only are we going to get through Frozen, but I'm going to get through probably like the first chorus of Magic Happens, which is fun. So it's like, but it's also shocking where it goes Moana, Coco, Frozen, or I guess it goes the theme, the beginning, the theme, and then in between each parade unit, there is like a brief chorus of Magic Happens. So it goes intro, Moana, Coco, Frozen, and then the outro, which is like multiple times of the outro, the out chorus. And I wouldn't even call it an outro. It's just like the chorus repeats itself over and over and over again. So this is so stupid talking to you about. I feel so silly. So I remember in the second one when I was in Moana and I was like, oh shit, this is hard. This is really hard. Okay, we still have a significant amount to go. Do we want to check our watch? Like, this is kind of how I'm talking to myself in my brain too. And it's like, yeah, let's check our watch. And I look down and I see, yep. Okay, cool. We are like, what? Maybe half of a K into this. Okay. And this is where I can kind of use my knowledge of space and distance. And so I say, great, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to wrap this at the water fountains. I'm in Prospect Park. So if you know Prospect Park, there's the upper loop, Center Drive, and then there's the lower loop. So what I did was I did the top, cut through Center Drive for my first one. And then I finished kind of where the drinking fountain is. And then, or I guess a little bit further than the drinking fountain. And then I cut up to the parking lot to go to the ice skating rink. And then I cut around to move to the other side of the park where that big hill is on. If you're running the Brooklyn half, you go up a big hill and then you come around and you go down the hill. So if you're running counterclockwise, it's over by that other side of the park that you run down the hill. So you come out towards the bottom of that where the lake is. So yeah, that's where I started my second rep kind of at the top of where that parking lot is, and then heading around to the lake. So once I hit the lake where that drinking fountain is at the very, very beginning of the lake, that's where I was at Moana, and I was kind of like, oh shit. Uh-oh. Okay. You're okay. I'm okay. Everything's fine. And I was like, listen, just be here now. And I remember like coming around towards that stoplight and coming around the lake. Like I was just saying, be here now. And also what's interesting, we were talking about this on our marathon training experience call. One of my athletes was asking me, I can't help it. I'm seeing so many people talking about their training and their stuff on TikTok, so many influencers, so many runners. And I'm comparing my training to theirs and I'm wondering, did I do enough? And la, 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 la. And I told her, I said, listen, something that I don't talk about enough is this is my job, right? Granted, this is not just my job. Badass Lady Gang is my job, but being a running coach affords me the ability to also manage my influencing job, my Kelly with Barkley Jazz Hands job. I have from at least 90 minutes to 2.5 hours a day dedicated, blocked off on my calendar to working out and then editing content of that video, right? So when you're seeing some of your favorite influencers, they have more time available to them most of the time because it's their job, right? They are showing up to make their training happen in a way that most people can't. So keep that in mind when you're seeing me or other people sharing your training. I work out a lot. And it's been like that for years, right? I would say even like half Ironman training kind of like pushed me in a direction that I've never been in before with the amount of working out that I like to do now with like strength work and stuff. But I now like, you can't put a meeting on my calendar most days before 11 o'clock because I have that time blocked off. Even if it's at 10 o'clock, I have it blocked off for working out, editing content, and like squaring away this side of it, like the running and all that stuff. Most people don't have that luxury. So keep that in mind when you're seeing like other people and you're comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing. But back to it, I would just remember having that thought as I was there. But in that moment, I was starting to be like, shit, what am I going to say when I make this video, right? Because a lot of the times what I'll end up doing is I'll start thinking, how am I going to spin this in the story I'm telling in today's video? And in those moments, I have to say, be here now. Be here now. You are not thinking about editing your video. You are not thinking about the story you're telling about how you fail or how you fall short or how you struggle. We're not done. Be in this fight right now. And so then in that moment, I have to think, okay, where am I? How far am I? Great. I think I'm going to wrap up at the drinking fountain at Center Drive. I'm pretty sure that's where I'm going to be at 15 minutes. And to be honest, that's exactly where I finished. It was like a little bit further than that. So like dead on. So I was able in that moment to like visualize how much further in front of me to the side to get to that place. And you're kind of in that moment able to say, great, doesn't matter how hard you're struggling. We know the route. We know we know exactly what to expect about where we're going to finish. So like, let's just focus on, in the same way you would be on a track, let's just focus on getting to that drinking fountain. Great. Now let's focus on getting to the next stoplight. Great. Let's focus on getting to the next stoplight. Great. We're on a hill. Pump those arms, pump those arms, pump those arms. Big deep breath through your nose. You'll hear me a lot of the time going, right? Like in my head, I'm saying to myself, I'm okay. You're okay. You're okay. There's 2 more minutes. That's like a 400-meter repeat. Just focus on a 400-meter repeat. And we're not even doing interval pace. So you're like, you're okay, right? I'm just contextualizing. I'm just pulling from my past of this is like this. And I know I can survive that. So this is helpful, right? When you're thinking like a 15-minute rep, if I just think, great, 15 minutes, here we go. That's too far, right? It's too far when you're struggling to contextualize because it's really not that far. But in the moment, it feels too far. So instead, I'm thinking, great, 5 minutes. Or I'm thinking, great, half of a mile. Or great, 400 meters, right? I'm just thinking smaller chunks. Sometimes in the beginning, I'm thinking 10 minutes. And then great, 5 minutes. Or I'm thinking 2 minutes. Great, 3 minutes. Great, 5 minutes. Great, 5 minutes, right? Whatever I have to do in that moment to help me contextualize the effort that I'm in and make it not seem really far, really hard, and something that I can accomplish. So that's what I did. And then when I finished, I kind of was like, whoa, that was really hard. And I don't know if I can do that again. And in that moment, I was thinking, you're definitely not going to be able to do that on pace because you have that huge hill, right? That was the biggest thing that I was kind of getting in my head about was like, I was like, where am I going to do this? And so I'm thinking, okay, if I go back around the bottom of the park, the last 7 minutes of this, or at least 5 minutes, are going to be uphill. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, oh God. And then I'm like, or I can go straight from where I'm at right now. And it's most of it 5 minutes uphill. And then the rest is kind of on a flat, small downhill, little uphill. And I was like, okay, that's an option, but like, I really don't want to climb that hill. And then the other option is to go straight across Center Drive and climb, and then turn and climb, and then turn and then climb. And so it was like, what option do you want to do? If I do the first option, I'm going to end up having to run at least of a half of a mile further in the long run in order to get back home. If I run the second route, that's like hard because we hate that hill. But in terms of like mileage for the whole thing, that's kind of the best option. And if I do the third, that's for sure the hardest option because it's just a straight climb the entire 15 minutes and you're already tired. So I was like, okay, what if we did 3 by 5 minutes at threshold pace? And then I said, okay, hold on. We're not abandoning the workout. We're not doing that. I listen, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to do this on pace, Kelly. So I said, that's fine. Don't worry about the pace. Can you just worry about the effort level? Just sit on threshold pace. Because here's the thing, you guys, even when you are off pace, if your heart rate zone is in the right zone, and you don't need to lose sleep over heart rate, it's effort level. Your heart rate will reflect the effort level that you're in, right? I will say that my heart rate was a little high for threshold pace, but the effort level was right. So if you can stay in the effort level that you're trying to be, regardless of what the number is, the outcome, the heart rate, you're getting all of the physical and mental adaptations that you want from this workout, right? And now granted, there will 1000% be days where you will quit a workout. You're going to be like, this is not my day. I need to go home. And those days, just trust that you're making the right decision for you. Every once in a while, you do need to do that. You need to say like, fuck this. It's not happening today. I'm going home and I'm forgetting this ever happened. Other days, you need to say, what just happened? Can I find a rhyme or a reason why that happened and why I reacted the way I reacted, right? It depends. Every single day is different. Every single run is different. So it really depends. And that's why it can be helpful to have a coach to run that stuff by. But for me, I was like, just try. You have to just try. You have to practice what you preach. And then a piece of me is like, you're filming this, you bitch. Like, what do you want to tell everybody, that you were too scared to try? So it was like, great, right. I just need to try. So sure enough, the hill was hard, but it wasn't terrible. I pulled the effort level back. I looked down, I saw 950s and I was like, and then I had to be like, hey, it doesn't matter. You know it doesn't matter. And here's the thing, as an athlete, I'm sure you can relate. Even though you know cognitively something, you may feel a completely different way about it. I was still disappointed, even though I knew it doesn't matter. Inside, it mattered. I cared. So I was like, great. When I got to the top of the hill, I said, perfect. We're going to take this next minute to catch our breath, not slow down, right? I'm going to stay exactly where I'm at, but I'm going to like focus on my breathing and just chill. And then I'm going to reassess. Can we get back on pace? No, I couldn't, but I did get a little bit faster. So once I got to the top of the hill, I was kind of able to like reassess, and that same thing that I was just talking about, right? You're just thinking context wise. And I was like, okay, I have no idea where I'm going to finish this, right? I have no clue how much further X, Y, and Z is. I just wasn't thinking clearly. So I was like, great, it doesn't matter. Just run in a straight line. We're going to loop the top of the park and we're just going to keep crushing. So sure enough, we kept going and going and going. And then I looked at my watch and I still had like, I don't remember. I want to say it was 4 minutes left, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. And I just like made this decision to not go to the entrance where I normally do drills is. But I like cut on a side and I was like running on these cobblestones and I was like, oh, this was a choice. This was a very peculiar choice that you made, Kelly, but whatever. We're in it. We're here. Just stay in it. And then I ended up having to like turn and run on the outside of the park. And I was like, perfect. When we get to my street that I like come up to the park on, I'll be able to like finish. And I got there and I still had like a minute left. And I was kind of like, oh, retro, what do we do? And I was like, okay, executive decision, just turn left. The light was green, just keep cruising. And so I did. And then we finished and I was kind of like, okay, I did it. I didn't stop. I didn't even know what my pace was. Upon reflection, here's what the breakdown was. The first 15-minute rep was an 8:58 pace on average. I'm not quite sure what that actually looked like. The second one was a 9:07 average. So those two, little bit of a disconnect, but not terrible. And then the third was 9:46. So significant jump, could not stay on pace. So a little frustrating. I'm a little disappointed, but again, I'm really happy I was able to just do it and try and get those coins in that coin jar, right? That's the way it goes. Sometimes you don't knock it out of the park, but it's all about effort level. And if I talk about personal best, like I knocked it out of the park with my personal best. So I don't feel a single ounce of regret. I don't feel anything other than like grateful it's over. And, you know, happy it happened. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Oh, yeah. That's that. And then this weekend, it was kind of like Saturday long run, hour 50. It ended up, it was a little warm. It was warm. It was humid. Melissa, who's my best friend, she's training for New York. We normally run together. So we were kind of like chit-chatting about what we wanted to do, but we've been doing a lot of the same routes because most of the time I want to bike with her and there aren't a ton of places I can like comfortably ride a city bike and be with her. I'm a people pleaser and I worry a lot about fucking up other people's runs or whatever. And rightly so. I think we all need to be looking out for each other, but like, I don't like biking on the sidewalk. So we tend to do a lot of the same stuff where I can kind of like cruise next to her. So we were like, okay, well, why don't I start at my house and you start on the west side and we'll run towards each other. I thought she was going to run Piers on the west side. So I thought I would catch her a lot earlier than I did, but she now claims she doesn't like to do Piers on the west side, which I'm like, Melissa, why'd you run on the west side then? If you're just going to run straight down, that's so silly, but it's not silly. It's her run and she can do whatever the fuck she wants. So I ended up cutting across the Brooklyn Bridge and I thought, I'll run the Brooklyn Bridge because my rule is if it's before 9 o'clock, I'll go on the Brooklyn Bridge. If it's after 9 o'clock, no way in hell I'm going to be on the Brooklyn Bridge. People are just so crazy. I ended up running into Bex Gentry, who is a Peloton instructor. I know Bex and I can spot Bex stride anyway. And so she like ran around me and I was like, Bex! And she like turned around and was like, ah! And so we ran together for like 5 minutes and just caught up. She's training for the 7 marathons in 7 days challenge where you run one marathon on one continent over 7 days, which is mind blowing and mind boggling. And she looks so strong right now. Like she is physically so strong. It is remarkable. She's a remarkable runner. So it was fun to catch up about that. We talked a little bit about Boston. So, and then I was like, I can't keep up with you. I am like gasping for breath. I'm like, you go. Please leave me. So we said bye and then she ran off and then I was like watching Melissa's location and she was like cruising, and I was like, God damn it. So I thought I would be able to just like run straight at her, but no, she was like just a little bit in front of me. So I ended up catching her at the end of Battery Park City, and I was like, oh, there you are. I didn't think I was going to be able to catch you, but I did. We find each other. We have Find My Location, so we just like watch each other's locations. Although all my friends haven't been able to see my location because I have 2 iPhones, and for some reason the second iPhone has like hijacked my location, and no one can see any of my locations. But we just figured it out. So yeah, from there we ran together for an hour maybe, and then we went Manhattan Bridge, and we met someone named Samantha. I saw so many people that I knew or that, you know, just said hi to me. It was so nice to meet you, Samantha. If you are listening, thank you for stopping. Thank you for saying hi. It was so lovely talking to you. And then we went to Brooklyn Bridge Park, and it was kind of like one of those things that we were like in the middle of the park when I hit an hour and 50 minutes, and I was like, it's fine, right? 10 minutes is fine. 20 minutes is not fine, but a little, and I didn't even run 10 minutes longer. I did like 7 minutes longer. So that's okay, right? I know my mileage for the week. I know I can handle that. So the run was great. I felt really good, which was like, oh, thank God. Cause last weekend was so not great. So I was like, great. I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. And then today I had a great run. I ran to Red Hook. I had 60 minutes as what I had intended to do. But then by the time I went to Red Hook and looped around, I was at 45 minutes when I got to my house, and I was like, do you want to run 10 minutes up this hill? And I was like, no, I'm done. And I was like, screw it. In terms of my mileage, it's growing at a very healthy, slow rate. And I feel good about that. And I could have pushed it, but why? You know, why? So yeah, I feel really good about this week 5 in the bag. Yeah, I'll turn to some questions because I think this is really long. How do you determine the pace you're supposed to run 400s at? Like I talked about, I use the VDOT calculator. So normally what you'll do is you'll run an effort, a really hard all out effort, a mile time trial, a race, something like a 5K, a 10K. You can use something like a half marathon or a marathon if you race those things. But I will say sometimes people love to talk about like Garmin predictors or VDOT predictors or like race predictors. When you're using like a mile, a 5K, I would even say a 10K, but 10Ks definitely are a little bit more accurate. When you're using something like a mile or a 5K, it's not long enough to be able to really predict your longer distance races. So marathon, half marathon, things like that. 10K, I think it pretty accurately tells you. But if you race a 10K or a half marathon, that more accurately tells you what your marathon, right, or half marathon might be in terms of using what your fitness level looks like with your result. So keep that in mind. But again, effort is always ideal, right? Consistency in your cadence, in your efforts and things like that is what you want to strive for. Someone asked, how is your heart rate so low? Mine is always in the 176 plus. We're around the same age too at threshold pace. Okay. If you're not doing a VO2 max test where you put the thing over your face and you're getting the gas exchange at the different levels, effort levels and zones, it's all a formula, right? Our watches are great, but they're not 100%. They're great. They're great information, but they're not 100%. A lot of stuff influences heart rate, where you're on your cycle, right? Where you're on your life stage. If you're dehydrated, the weather, stress, how much sleep you're getting, a lot of stuff influences heart rate. And then on top of that, some people have naturally high or low heart rates. So if you're not doing a VO2 max test, or if you feel okay, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it. But the best advice I have to anyone whose heart rates are higher is to just go to the doctor and either get a stress test or to check in with them about your heart rate zones. Bring them your heart rate data. Tell them this is what it is, right? Especially if it's in the upper end of stuff. If you're seeing 200s, if you're seeing 190s on stuff, if your easy pace, your conversational pace is really, really high and you feel like your effort level is right, you're able to hold a conversation, you feel like you could go forever, I would go to the doctor. Go to the doctor and just have them check it out. It never hurts to get it checked out. It could be a medicine. It could be something else. It could be a quick fix. It could be, they could just having the confidence to say and know this is just the way I am is wonderful, right? Get it checked out. Just get it checked out. It might be nothing. It might be something, but it never hurts to get it checked out with your doctor and to just have them tell you you're fine, or this is something we want to worry about. These are the next steps. Next question. I'm just slower than I used to be, which was never fast, and just training for a half. And then in parentheses, this wasn't a question. It was a comment. And I do want to talk about it because this is something that I talk to a lot of my athletes about, especially the ones who maybe have ran faster races before. We rob ourselves of being happy and proud and feeling good about what we're working towards when what we equate good with is a faster time, right? We kind of have to rumble with when do we get to feel proud of ourselves? At what point is the effort that we're putting forth enough? And at what point do we get to feel proud of stuff that we've done in the past, but we get to feel really, really proud of what we're doing right now? You know, like when I hear people say like, I'm just running a half marathon, I'm always like, that is such a mind-boggling thing for me. I'm always like, you need a huge break from running marathons and half marathons. And you need to come back to reality to understand that running a half marathon is not a normal thing. There's nothing casual about a half marathon. It is incredibly, incredibly far, and it is really hard on your body. So when we get into that headspace of like a half marathon just being like a whatever thing, like that is so cuckoo bananas. And it is so easy to get into that headspace because with running, like you just want to do all the things. And especially when long runs become something that is like such an important gift for you, got to come back down the mountain. But it's okay to be slower. There will be times in your life where you will be slower. There will be times in your life where you'll be faster. And then as you age, there is a good chance that you're never going to run as fast as you used to, but fast is relative, right? Fast is fast for you in the same way that a heavy weight is heavy for you, in the same way that a hard race is a hard race for you. Like it's all relative. So I would say for everybody who's in a place where you're kind of feeling like this isn't good enough, I would really spend some mental time trying to get to the bottom of that rat's nest of like, what's good? When do I get to feel proud? All that stuff. What do you recommend for shoulder packs like the one you're wearing? She's talking about a hydration vest. I love the hydration vest I have, which is an older Lululemon model, but I don't love the closures in the front. It's also a little big on me. I like the pocket situation. I say this because I literally just ordered, I'm pulling it out and showing it to the camera. The newer one, and the pocket situation is different. I love the one I have because there are so many pockets and pockets that I really like. And I think this one has pockets, but I just need to investigate it more. But I like the way that my pockets are on my vest because they feel a little bit more secure, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I need to try this one. But I like the closures on this one a lot better than the ones I have. I feel like I'm like doing this like crazy crisscross tying stuff with the ones I have. So yeah, those are all the questions I have today. Should we talk a little bit about week 6, upcoming week? So here's the plan as it sits right now. Monday, cycling and strength. I'm going to try to get on my GD bike and go to the park. Tuesday, 2 by 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at interval pace. One of my favorite workouts. I love 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I have not done 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in years. So that'll be fun. Wednesday, strength work and maybe cycling. Thursday, 3 by 15 minutes at threshold pace. Again, we're redoing that workout because I need to redo. Friday, rest day. Saturday, 50 to 60 minute run. Sunday, long run, 2 hours. I'm flip-flopping Saturday and Sunday because Saturday looks like it's going to be hot. Again, anything could happen. The weather could shift. And if that's the case, I'll do my long run on Saturday and then recovery run on Sunday. So yeah, week 6 on deck. Here we go. If you have any questions, comment on social medias, comment on YouTube. You can watch this live on YouTube, or you can always shoot me an email, but come train with us. If you are looking to learn more about the mental side of stuff or have a team of support and get the support you deserve, join a training experience, join the Badass ID Gang training team. Lots of options available. Learn more, links in bios down below, all the good stuff. Until then, kick ass take names. I'll catch you next time.